Here at the Digital News Desk, and we have Watertown Mayor Sarah Pierce here to go over a few questions that we have before Tuesday's meeting. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Good to see you at the Tuesday meeting because of Labor Day. First and foremost, you have some information, or you want to encourage people who were impacted by the flooding back in August in the city of Watertown, but the county of Jefferson also included in the money that the state is providing. So what do you want people to do?
Yes, so that's been some big news over the course of the past couple weeks here. As everybody knows, we experienced quite a bit of rainfall, flooding that happened in August. And in the wake of that, I did get a lot of inquiries from people who said, are we going to be eligible for funding from the state to help with repairs, cover the cost of damages, that sort of thing. And at that point in time, Jefferson County was not included on the list of counties across New York State that are eligible for funding. That has since changed. The state, I think in response to a number of complaints and inquiries from people who were impacted, has opened that funding up to residents in Jefferson County. And people will need to apply for that, of course, and there's some details that are still being worked out as far as the application and the process goes. But what people need to know at this point in time is they can go online and fill out a form so that when that time comes and they are able to apply for the funds, they'll be notified, and then they can get in line to get their application reviewed. So the best way to do that is I have a couple links on my social media, on my Facebook page. And then I think we can put a link up on the city website too. We'll make sure that we do that so people can easily find it, fill out that form, and then, as I said, you'll be notified as soon as the funds become available. And I just want to give a shout out to our state officials, especially Assemblyman Scott Gray, who I know is advocating for Jefferson County, for the city of Watertown to be included among the counties who are eligible for this funding. When
it comes to that flooding, Washington Street and the infrastructure there in the high school, you had a meeting with the school superintendent.
Yes.
Not just the high school, but the school grounds. You had a meeting. Why was that meeting important? Because what happened under Washington Street and the reason some of that water went into the school grounds could have been because of infrastructure failure in that area?
It could have been. Still going to work with the city manager to bring that to his attention and make sure we're giving that the focus that it needs, because obviously it's one of our most important structures in the city, the school that serves thousands of students. So I did have a meeting with the superintendent on that issue, among other issues, and that's one of the things we're going to be looking at, hopefully troubleshooting.
The state didn't give Watertown money in the New York Swims program.
No.
The city was hoping for it. Disappointing?
It certainly is disappointing given the amount of funds that we have put into pools and the infrastructure. I think as far as my opinion goes, we were looking for any sort of help available to help alleviate taxpayers of those costs. It was certainly disappointing that we weren't selected for funds, but if that program's offered again in the future, I certainly hope we will apply, would intend to apply, but it was disappointing.
Latest round of money for drinking water projects as well. Watertown wasn't on that.
No, we have been striking out, but it's not for lack of trying. We're trying to find dollars wherever we can, and I think the most important thing is that we are doing the follow-up following the rejection of not receiving these funds, saying, what can we do next time around to make our application stronger? So that's something that we're going to continue to work on and continue to work with our officials at the state and federal level to seek out support in any way possible.
And you worked at the state level with State Senator Patty Ritchie, and you know how these programs work. So you don't always get the money from the state, right? And again, you have to try a couple of times.
You don't always, and I think the most important thing, again, is having those relationships with your state officials so you can advocate with them, so you can have an open rapport with them, so you know what sort of opportunities are coming up. And I know that's what I try to do myself. I know that's what the city manager tries to do. We have, again, great relationships with our elected officials at the state and federal level, and keeping those lines of communication open and making sure that they know how great our needs are is key, and that's what we'll continue to do and hope for better results next time.
Homelessness in the city of Watertown, it's a county problem, but it's in Watertown. It's the hub, right? But the county is trying to take the initiative to try to find answers. The city's trying to help. It kind of came about midway through the last mayor's tenure. You're starting out with needing to address this. First, what's your reaction when you see people camping out in front of City Hall or at the pavilion and outside of the hey, don't do it, it's illegal, or soon will be illegal. But you've grown up here, and that's not something that you saw a lot of.
No, it's not. And I think that first and foremost, it's sad that people are in that situation. And then I think, as you kind of alluded to, for people who have lived in the city of Watertown for any length of time, it's almost shocking to see that, because you think of that as something that happens in large cities. So sad, shocking. We're doing what we can do at this point in time to help, working with the county. I know the county has been very proactive as far as if we see a situation happening in a certain area. So for example, out in front of City Hall on Factory Street, there's been a number of issues. The county will send their staff who's specifically trained to work with the homeless population to those individuals to basically do some outreach to them and let them know, hey, these are the resources available, this is how we can help. Unfortunately, I think the sad reality is some of these individuals don't want the help. It's engaging with them, letting them know again what's available to them and trying to get them to want that help. But again, some of them don't want that help, and that's a sad reality, and something that we'll continue to work on, again, with the county, because they have the social services department.
In the city drawn up language where people in that situation can't be living underneath City Hall or at the library?
Correct, yes. And unfortunately, that's a step that we have had to take because of the related complaints to individuals being in that area and camping overnight. Specifically, it's been an issue with the library and patrons going to the library, especially with young children, and there being some not so safe activities or not things that you would want children to be around, that kind of thing. So that's a step that we're taking just to be able to enforce basically no overnight camping in those areas.
The county did look for requests for proposals. They put it out there, hey, we had a couple of things fall through and we need some answers as to how to handle the homeless population. There really isn't a plan right now, but you're going on a fact-finding mission that will take you to Syracuse.
Yes, Syracuse, and I think the other important site visit that we'll be doing as well as we're heading to Ogdensburg to see how they're handling things there. This is a meeting that has been organized by Assemblyman Scott Gray. He has engaged the appropriate agencies on the state level who will be in attendance as well. So you'll kind of have all the major players there, state officials, county officials, city officials, and then people in the city of Ogdensburg who have dealt with this issue, so they can provide that kind of feedback on their experiences, what has worked, what hasn't worked. So that will be very beneficial, I think, to the group as a whole. And then I just learned today there will be additional tours of facilities in Syracuse that will be happening this month as well. So that will, again, also be beneficial to talk with people who have talked with officials, talk to people who worked on this issue to see what kind of advice they can provide us as we work to continue to put together a plan to address this.
It doesn't disappear. I mean, you go to Syracuse, even though they have the facilities, they still have people on corners that
Correct.
are, asking for your help.
Mm-hmm.
Garbage pickup in the city of Watertown. The DPW chief said it should be canceled. He said that at a public meeting. I don't know how he feels about it, saying it after the fact. I know that he wasn't really happy with the media response, but it is something that he said, and it's something that that was an option. He wanted to put it out there, and when you have that kind of a thing in an open meeting, we're going to talk about it. So you got a lot of feedback after that, I'm sure, from people, as we did here at
Certainly.
the TV station. People really want that service. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would say that in the weeks following that work session, the overwhelming majority of people want to see the city continue with refuse service, and I think that work session was basically a starting point to start the conversation, because the impetus for that was that we're going to have to purchase 2 new trucks, $300,000 each. You also have the debt service on those, so not a small amount of money. And I, am thankful to the city manager, DPW chief, that they're bringing all of the options to the forefront for discussion rather than years down the road saying, oh, we should have looked at this or we should have done it this way. They're having some foresight to be able to present those options, open it up to the council for discussion, open it up to the public for discussion. So I think really that's what the past few weeks have been about when it comes to considering how we move forward with refuse. Again, as I said in the beginning, as you alluded to, overwhelmingly people want us to keep that service. And I do think when you look at the service services a city provides. Sure, you have things like recreation, not absolutely essential, but something like trash pickup, that is essential. And I think that that's what a lot of people have shared with me. That is what a lot of people have shared with me, is that's a core service that a city should be providing. But that said, I think there are definitely things that we can be doing to create efficiencies, do a little bit of a better job when it comes to saving money with how we operate the refuse service. So that's really what we'll be focusing on in the months ahead.
If nothing else, the comment by your DPW chief provided transparency as to how much it does cost,
Sure,
what
yes.
the options are,
Yes.
and it let people speak up. And
Yeah,
before it got
exactly.
too far down the road, where it
Exactly.
was going to be canceled, people were actually involved in the beginning of the conversation.
And I think that's what we need more of, quite honestly.
And the investment there that you're going to be doing at the meeting Tuesday night, this is Tuesday, so tonight, $600,000 for a couple of trucks, and
Yes.
you're bonding that, so it's going to
Two
be
trucks.
2 trucks,
Yep.
one for recycle, one for trash pickup.
Correct.
And by bonding, it means you pay for it over time. You're taking
Correct.
out a car payment for the city of Watertown, but the investment's there in which the service is going to continue. My final question about the ethics complaint against Mr. Olney, Councilmember Olney. He wants legal representation. City Hall doesn't think that it is deserved. I guess where it comes down for me to kind of understand it is in this scenario where Mr. Olney goes back in front of the ethics board, it's not a situation where City Hall believes you have to have a lawyer, that you have to have a legal representation. But if you're in a situation where you have to have that lawyer, then city charter says the city attorney should be that person for you. But in this one, it's an option, and so he shouldn't have that representation. Am I getting that?
Well,
correct?
I think you are getting that correct, and I think that the city council, based on what we did at our last meeting, we are providing Mr. Olney with the opportunity to appear before the Board of Ethics, tell his side of the story. I think we're not even at a point where he would require an attorney. This is just him going in front of the ethics board, presenting whatever facts he wants to present, and then the ethics board will provide a revised opinion. Will that opinion differ from the one that was previously issued? That remains to be seen. Could we potentially be providing Mr. Olney with legal counsel further on down the road when it gets to that point, if and when it gets to that point where there is an actual administrative hearing? That's something that we would have to discuss when that point in time comes. But I think it goes back to, this is an informal opportunity for him to provide his side of the story to the ethics board, one that, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of others, doesn't require an attorney. And again, I think this is my comment to your reporter a week or so ago when this issue came up. The complaint against Mr. Olney alleges that he was not acting in the best interest of the city, so I think it might be premature to provide him with legal counsel for a complaint, basically to defend himself from a complaint where he was not it alleges that he wasn't acting in the best interest of the city. So I think it's premature to really discuss at this point in time.
When this all happened back in the fall, Mr. Olney was accused of providing confidential information after an executive session. The other week here, just last week, when we did the report with Mr. Olney and he wanted to prove his point, he shared privileged and confidential information from the city attorney to prove his point that the city attorney also believes that the ethics board should be looked at again and maybe revamped and such. Any reaction to him sharing that email of privileged and confidential information with us, or were you surprised that he did it?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I would say transparency is important when you're an elected official, but you do also have to take into consideration advice from legal counsel and information that's attorney-client privilege. That's something that you have to respect as a council member, and in order to release that information, it requires a majority vote of council. He didn't have a majority vote to go and do that, so I would say that type of behavior is concerning for a council member. It concerns me. I know people in the community who have contacted me share my concerns, and at this point in time, I think the best course of action is for him to go before the ethics board, plead his case, share his side of the story, but it does kind of demonstrate a concerning pattern of behavior from my perspective.
And could that bring another complaint against him?
Potentially could.
That behavior from sharing that with us?
Potentially could.
All right. The meeting tonight, it is Tuesday after Labor Day, but it is tonight. That's why we had the mayor in here to give us a little bit of information before everything goes on tonight. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Appreciate it.